Tim Sales here. In this series of videos, I'm talking about what prevents someone from becoming a rep. And one of the reasons is because the rep is thinking in complexities instead of simplicities, all right? And so your job is to make it simple. All right, there's a farmer who came over to my property because he puts his cows on my property. And I'm trying to figure out a backhoe, all right? And so if you've never experienced a backhoe, there's levers in there and there's levers back here. And when you pull one lever, this thing right here pulls the bucket up. And another lever is going to tilt that bucket. And this back here, there's stanchions to go down. There's a boom here. And like, there's a lot of levers, right? And so I was showing my lack of experience and he was watching. and so I climbed out of it, and I shook his hand and I was talking about how confusing it was. And he said, Tim, it's a backhoe. How complicated could it be? Right? In other words, he's a farmer and he thinks in simplicities. And I was thinking about all the difficulties and all the buttons and all the pulls and the levers and all of these things. But after a while, every time I got back in that backhoe, I started laughing at myself because of how complicated I made it when it's not very complicated. Okay? It's just two buckets on the end of a car or truck. Okay? And so that is kind of an example of where I have done this. Okay? And where I've looked at something from a complex standpoint instead of seeking simplicity. And that's what I want you to do here. And I want to walk you through this. And so when you're talking to a prospect, a lot of times they don't understand even the fundamentals. And that's the reason why they get into a complexity thing. Okay. So the way that I explain this, and some of you may have seen this, but it's basically, here are all the categories of a product-based business, okay? And so you can play in any one of these games. So you can play in grabbing raw resources out of earth. In other words, pulling sand or concrete or soil or ore or oil, gold, diamonds, trees, animals, water. These things are extracted. It's going to take a bigger thing than a backhoe, okay? In other words, but that's the idea. And then it's going to shift over into manufacturing. And that's where they take that sand and they make glass for cell phones or bottles, jars, milk and cream and meat and lavender and herbs and veggies and vitamins and so forth. Okay. That's in the manufacturing side. And then there is the taking of those into branding, right? And so that's going to be legal, licensing, packaging, countries, and languages. And then from there, it's going to go to a warehouse where they're going to pick, pack, ship, and to countries. Okay, so if you look at that simplicity, that it's really just 4 categories until it gets to the sell. And so it can go through brick and mortar, it can go through online store, and it can go through a sales rep. And also in other countries. And so you're acquiring the customer, you're serving the customer. Why? Because you get the highest margins and the most security. That's the simplicity of what network marketing is all about. Okay? And then there's another category just on the other side of this, and it's called customer service. And yes, you serve the customers here. However, the returns, the complaints, the restocking, the shipping in multi-countries. So that's a whole nother business. Now, what I want to do and what we do in network marketing is we want to partner with someone who's going to handle all of these other categories. And so when you're explaining what network marketing is and its simplicity is that you are partnering with someone who does all of this and all you do is acquire the customers. And the primary reason that we do that is because it has the highest margin. So in other words, the margins between here and here are much smaller in any of these categories than right here. So the person closest to the customer, in other words, if you're acquiring the customer, you have the most margin. That gives you the most security. Okay? So that's the simplicity on that one. So how we get customers, that too, it can be explained in a simple way. And this right here is called the pipeline. And the pipeline is the way that anyone acquires anybody. So if I were to have a regular job and I were to want to get an employee, I would have to do the same thing. If I wanted to, if I owned a restaurant and I needed people to come in and eat, I would have to do this. A college has to do this. A politician has to do this. Every church has to do this. What's this? You generate a lead. How do you generate a lead? Well, it could come right out of your contact file, right? So you just scroll through and call somebody or send them something, okay? You generate a lead. You could run advertisements on Facebook or Instagram or Google or like local or on blogs or anything you want to do. You could do it in newspapers, right? Local newspapers. You can do it however you want to generate leads. And then you contact the person after they've responded and you set an appointment for them to see a presentation. You follow up with them and you get a customer. Or they go off of your board. This is a pipeline board. They go off your board and you do another one. But if you do get a customer, you serve them, you make money. Okay? That's the simplicity. And income rise in ratio to the pipeline production. In other words, it's quantity across the pipeline. That's the simplicity of what we do. Don't complicate it more than that. And also, when you're talking to people, don't make it easier than it is. Okay? Not simple. In other words, it's this simple. But don't say, there's nothing to it. You're not really selling. You're sharing and all of this stuff. Okay? So no, you're just going to do the pipeline. This is the process. The next one is when it gets into how you get paid, there's so much confusion, and I believe that most reps are the ones that are doing most of the confusion. So in a traditional world where most people understand is that, let's say this is Nike or this is Pepsi or whatever, okay? Well, every company has a cost to manufacture and various different things, and they have an advertising budget. And that advertising budget would be to acquire Beyonce, acquire a film crew, and get them to shoot a video that you're going to then pay television ad space $50 million just for her, right? And then plus if it's on the Super Bowl or wherever. So they know there's an advertising budget that's going to happen. Kevin Durant, $300 million to wear those shoes, okay? Advertising budget to pay celebrities. Everybody understands that model. Okay, so in network marketing, this person is trying to acquire this customer. She buys the product straight from the company at a 30% retail commission. Okay? In other words, a reduction in price. And so she sells that for an increased price of 30%. And so she's going to make back 30% on the sale of that product because she bought it wholesale from the network marketing company. No advertising budget was spent. Okay? So nothing is paid from the advertiser, from this particular one. Okay, so where does the multi-level marketing part come in? All right, so remember, this person acquired this customer, they purchased this, and she got a 30% commission. The company may, and I don't know your comp plan, but this is the concept. From that advertising budget that would normally have been paid to Kevin or Beyonce, there's a 30% extra bonus that gets paid to the person who acquired the customer. In addition, the person who brought this person to the business and perhaps trained them is going to get a little commission, a 15% commission from the advertising budget, not from this person. And then a 10% commission from the person who brought that person. And then maybe a 5% commission from the person who brought that person. Now, you say, well, all of those levels is going to increase the price. Well, of course it does. But the HR department is the person who would have normally been being paid to acquire sales reps. And so that too gets paid out of one of these other blocks. And so when you break a network marketing company down, what you're going to find is that they come in at around a 10% profit margin. After all commissions are paid and all costs of goods, everything is paid, it's going to be around 10%, which is about the average of the S&P 500, okay? So there you go. That's the simplicity in how you explain it so that the person understands how to do it, okay? So what I just showed you is pretty much all I discuss on a typical prospect, all right? So many times what I'm really doing is that person has been in network marketing, but they have gotten so many complexities. They're looking at so many levers that they can pull that they don't even know anymore what they're trying to accomplish, all right? And so I have to unconfuse the network marketer, and then sometimes I have to unconfuse a typical person, but if I just explain those things that I just showed you, they get it because it's simple and it's brief, okay? So let me know what you think about this, and if you like it, give me a thumbs up, and you might consider subscribing if you haven't already.